What's up everyone, Alex here, and I want to spend some time today to share my thoughts on the recently released Sea of Stars demo on the Nintendo Switch. The demo is a carefully curated set of activities that were chosen to demonstrate how Sea of Stars distinguishes itself from other JRPGs, so if the order in which you go through these different maps confuses or befuddles, that's because it's not really meant to make any sort of narrative sense. The devs have stated that this is by design, so as to not spoil any part of the game. And given how demos are theoretically supposed to just give you a taste of the full version, it'll require a little bit more from players to really see through the lack of narrative cohesion, which admittedly, I kinda had to get past myself. When the demo dropped, I actually played the game on the go, which brought back a lot of fond memories of playing RPGs on my GBA. But when you play this on the big screen, the lush and vibrant world really pops out. It's magnificent, breathtaking, and just outright gorgeous. The first area of the demo has one battle, but it's mostly here to demonstrate that you're able to climb or drop off of ledges and cliffs, increasing your ability to vertically explore each area. The first time I was here, I totally missed a cave on the left side, as well as the treasure chest located nearby, particularly because I was trying to blast through the demo quickly. So if you haven't tried the demo yet, I encourage you to try and explore every single area to its fullest and talk to as many people as you can, just to envelop and surround yourself with a vibe of what it's like being in this world. Before I move on to the second area, I just want to point out something that I learned from following the Sea of Stars devs on Twitter, who you'll find at Sea of Stars Game. One thing that you'll probably miss is the fact that everything in Sea of Stars is lit up dynamically. Check out this footage shared on their Twitter account demonstrating how lighting and shadows change depending on the time of day. One thing that I also want to point out is how the run animation feels a lot like the way characters were animated in Chrono Trigger. While Sea of Stars has its own unique visual identity, much of what I see and experience in the game absolutely reminds me of said game, which is all by design. Even a team admits it on the game's official site, additionally citing Super Mario RPG and Illusion of Gaia as inspirations. The Super Mario RPG aspect of it most likely refer to moments in combat where you're asked to press buttons to either extend attacks or prolong skilled offensive maneuvers, like this boomerang attack that I am absolutely obsessed with perfecting. The next scene showcases how Sea of Stars handles its narrative. This is a story sequence taken from the full game, though with little context, it's very difficult to really get invested in what's going on. That said, this scene is also a demonstration of how far Sea of Stars pixel art can be altered or changed depending on the situation, showing how dedicated its team of artists are in conveying as much emotion, or in this case, shock value, its sprites can display. This is demonstrated by the ensuing arm wrestling match that abruptly ended thanks to reasons. But the resulting action and the wholesomeness of the situation paint a really clear picture to me of what I could expect from the game's narrative in the full game. Fun, wholesome, and a whole lot of 16-bit charm that's at the heart of this incredible endeavor. Now, I don't normally peruse through others' impressions before I make my own, but one criticism I did encounter is how the dialogue in Sea of Stars doesn't have enough characterization that can help modernize its storytelling. I'm of two minds here, especially given how I lobbied the same criticism on Chained Echoes, and frankly, it's something that I've thought a lot about since. While I don't necessarily think that spending more time adding said characterization would hurt the overall mood and vibe of the game, I don't think it's all too necessary either. If the goal is to capture and enhance those feelings of nostalgia of older games, and present them in such a way that newcomers to this style of gameplay can appreciate it all by itself, then I feel that Sea of Stars demo has demonstrated this well enough. The port town of Brisk might seem big, but it's actually a bit contained thanks to the areas not available in the demo guards that bar access to the northern part of the area. What's very interesting about this area though aren't necessarily the shops where you can buy cooking ingredients or the weapon/accessory store, but the large mass of water that surrounds Brisk. While there really isn't anything much of note in these areas, you'd be surprised how far the game will actually let you swim in the water. For me, this is one detail that makes me think of a long-held fantasy that I had when I was young, where I wanted to swim in the shimmering waterways, lakes, and ponds found in numerous towns back in the heyday of the 16-bit JRPG, making this a dream finally fulfilled. If you think of it in another way, however, this is yet another way the developers are implying and encouraging you to explore the world to your heart's content, without verbalizing it and expressing it through its level design and gameplay. I've no doubt that the developers themselves felt the same way as I did back in the day and thought about how it would be cool to give everyone an unprecedented amount of freedom to explore Sea of Stars' world rather than hinder them, which I think there's a good metaphor in there somewhere. And of course, what retro-inspired JRPG wouldn't be complete without a world map? This world map functions similarly to Chrono Triggers, though I did find that I wanted a way to run slightly faster than the normal walking speed here. There's also a bonus track here composed by Yasunori Matsuda, who also worked on Chrono Trigger's soundtrack as well as Xenogears, which is another beloved album, so don't miss that. There's also a fishing minigame because why not? I feel this is a requirement for JRPGs these days, so its inclusion isn't really a surprise to me at this point. The real meat and potatoes of the demo, in my opinion, is the dungeon you'll be exploring. This dungeon isn't straightforward, and it'll require you to pick up different colored crystals and activate different pedestals to travel to different areas. This is also where you'll get to really get a taste for its combat, as you'll be encountering enemies while you're traversing through each zone. I found the puzzles in these dungeons to be a welcome change to the usual dungeons I've been encountering in JRPGs as of late. And I also noticed that the developers balance out the tasks for each area based on the probable amount of time players will be spending solving these. So, for instance, if players are going to be spending more time solving puzzles, there won't be a ton of enemy encounters. It's a thoughtful way of keeping an eye out for the player's experience that I don't think I've ever seen from other developers before, and I appreciate it immensely here. This is also one of the unique perks of being able to place enemies on the field rather than rely on random encounters to break up dungeon exploration, as the devs can definitely control the pace a lot better by doing this. Massive kudos for this, by the way. With regards to combat, however, I found it to have just the right kind of challenge, though there are times that I question whether I'm doing things right or not. The boomerang attack I mentioned earlier, for example, made me wonder why my well-timed parries didn't amount to significant damage. Like, I swear, I'm able to deflect the weapon about 20 or more times, which should feel like I'm doing something meaningful. So I'm surprised to find out that even after that, enemies are still alive for some reason. I get that juggling a ton is a challenge in and of itself, but it also takes up a good chunk of time that the amount of damage that you're actually causing isn't proportional to the amount of time spent doing this activity. Also, the demo could stand to have a little bit more explanation or prompts for timed additional attacks and blocks. Maybe I skipped that explanation somewhere, but I also noticed that unlike the boomerang skill I mentioned, those two aforementioned moves didn't come with prompts, though you can technically just feel it out based on the animation, especially when blocking. One other thing I want to point out is that depending on the combination of crystals and pedestals, you may find yourself in a fishing spot in the dungeon. This may seem like the only way forward, but try out another combination of colors so you can skip this area if you don't want to fish. Overall, the Sea of Stars demo demonstrates a sea of possibilities. This 30-minute demo provides a more than sufficient vertical slice of what we can expect the final product to feel like, though the quality of the overarching narrative is the only one put into question. That said, it does look as though the developers are on the right track with it, delivering surprising and memorable moments that make its world feel fresh and alive. And I meant what I said about talking to the NPCs too. There are some pretty quirky and funny conversations happening there. And of course, the UI design. These are probably the most elegant dialogue boxes I've ever seen in quite a while, and I just want to give kudos to that. At any rate, that, my friends, are my thoughts on the Sea of Stars demo. I've been told that this demo will find its way to other platforms later in the year, but for now, I want to hear what you think of it if you played it. And of course, I want to hear what you think based off of what you've seen and heard here. Post your thoughts in the comments below, and let's talk about it. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.